You know, usually when we talk about going to the doctor, the primary anxiety is centered entirely around the diagnosis itself. Like, what is actually wrong with me?
Right. Are the test results going to reveal something terrible?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We focus so much on the medical unknown, which, I mean, is inherently stressful enough on its own.
Oh, for sure. It's a vulnerable position to be in, no matter the circumstances. You're sitting in a sterile room, usually in a paper gown, just waiting for someone to give you answers about your own body.
But imagine adding a massive invisible wall to that already stressful scenario. Like, imagine sitting in that exact same sterile waiting room, but you're navigating a health system in your second language.
Yeah. That's a whole other level of stress.
It really is. Suddenly your stomach is in knots, not just because you feel physically sick, but because you are, well, absolutely terrified that you won't be able to adequately explain why you feel sick.
That is a universally terrifying scenario. I mean, the pressure to find the exact right word, the fear of miscommunicating a crucial detail.
Or just the worry of simply being misunderstood when your actual physical health is on the line.
Exactly. It amplifies the baseline anxiety tenfold.
And what happens? People panic. They feel this overwhelming pressure to basically swallow a medical dictionary before they even schedule the appointment.
Oh, absolutely. They sit at home on the internet, going down a WebMD rabbit hole.
Yes. Trying to memorize complex jargon like gastrointestinal distress or localized inflammation or migraine with aura. They think that this is the only way a medical professional will take them seriously.
Right, which is just completely backwards.
It is. So today, whether you are an English learner yourself, maybe you're sitting at that A2 or B1 intermediate level, or perhaps you are someone helping a learner navigate the system, we're going to completely upend that assumption.
We are going to completely dismantle that fear today.
That is the core mission of this deep dive into our source material, which is a linguistic breakdown titled At the Doctor: Simple Symptoms in English. The goal here is to prove to you that simple, clear sentences are actually vastly superior and far more effective for a diagnosing doctor than attempting to construct perfect, complex medical English.
Which is an incredible relief, honestly. I mean, you really do not need a medical degree or the vocabulary of one to be an excellent patient.
Right.
You just need a few highly effective structural tools. This isn't just about, getting by. It's about recognizing that clear foundational language is the absolute most efficient way to transfer raw data from your body to the doctor's brain.
I love that. Raw data to the doctor's brain.
Yeah.
And we are going to build out that toolkit for you by chronologically walking through the stages of a typical medical visit.
Step by step.
Exactly. We're going to explore how to accurately point out what hurts, how to lay out the timeline of your illness, how to describe the intensity without exaggerating, and finally, how to take control of the conversation to ask the right questions before you walk out the door. Okay, let's unpack this.
The best place to start is the foundation, right? Before a physician can prescribe a treatment or even form a hypothesis, they need to know where the problem is physically located.
Makes sense.
It is the absolute ground floor of any medical interaction.
See, I would normally assume that you'd need a massive vocabulary of verbs to describe all the nuanced ways a human body can malfunction, like ache, throb, sting, burn, cramp.
Which is a nightmare to memorize.
Right. But looking at the linguistic breakdown here, it aggressively boils this entire foundational step down to just two crucial words: hurts and have.
It strips away all the noise.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is how the core distinction between using the word hurts and using the word have when describing your symptoms is, well, it's everything.
It really is.
I know it sounds almost aggressively basic, but mastering this specific distinction is the key to unlocking clear communication without the cognitive overload of translating complex thoughts.
I was trying to visualize how this works in practice, and the best way I can describe it is by imagining your body as a house.
Okay, I like this.
Using the word hurts is essentially like a localized fire alarm going off in one very specific room of that house. It's an alarm pointing to a distinct physical location.
Right.
But using the word have is entirely different. Have is more like describing the general weather condition that is currently affecting the entire property. It's a broader systemic symptom.
That is a phenomenal analogy. The isolated fire alarm versus the overarching weather system.
Yeah.
Let's examine that fire alarm first. So the verb hurts.
Okay.
What's fascinating about this single word is how much heavy lifting it does for you diagnostically. You use it exclusively to say that one specific isolated part of your body is currently experiencing pain.
So the formula is incredibly clean. You just say my, then insert the specific body part and end with hurts. Like my back hurts, my stomach hurts, my head hurts.
Exactly. You don't need to say, I am experiencing pain in the lumbar region.
You don't. And frankly, the doctor prefers that you don't.
Yeah, they really do. And you can add just a tiny bit of context to make it even more precise.
Yeah.
A great foundational sentence is just, my throat hurts when I swallow.
It's incredibly precise data, but it requires zero medical jargon. So imagine you're in the office and the doctor opens with that classic line, "What seems to be the problem today?"
If you simply reply, my throat hurts and I feel tired, you have instantly given them massive diagnostic clarity.
Because the doctor instantly has a location, the fire alarm is clearly going off in the throat room and nowhere else. They aren't worrying about your knees or your elbows.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the fire alarm. What about the weather? How does the word have function differently?
We use the structure I have when we need to talk about common, broader symptoms. The weather conditions of your body, as you put it. You aren't pointing your finger to one localized spot of pain, you know. You are describing an overall physiological state.
So instead of a specific body part, it's a condition.
Yep.
I have a cough, I have a fever, I have a sore throat.
Exactly. You are categorizing the overall experience. A perfect example of this in action would be saying, I have a headache and a slight fever.
So if the doctor asks, do you have any pain right now?
You just rely on that structure. Yes, I have a headache.
Looking at it this way, it really takes the psychological pressure off the patient. If you just firmly lock those two distinct concepts into your brain, hurts for a specific localized spot and have for a general systemic symptom, you have successfully communicated the most critical opening information.
You did. And you didn't need to search your brain for the translation of migraine or bronchitis or strep throat.
Which is the entire point. Keeping your vocabulary restricted to just these two verbs is almost like a protective mechanism. It removes the pressure to self-diagnose.
Think about it. A doctor doesn't actually want your amateur self-diagnosis anyway.
Good point.
If you walk in and try to use a complicated word and you use it slightly incorrectly, you might accidentally send the doctor down the wrong diagnostic path entirely.
Yeah.
They want your raw data. They want your baseline experience. Hurts and have deliver that raw data with zero interference.
That makes total sense. You are delivering the data, they are running the analysis. Okay, so the doctor has gathered the initial data. They know the weather outside, and they know exactly which fire alarm is ringing in the house.
Right.
Now, their brain is going to instantly transition to the next logical puzzle piece, the timeline. Like, how long has this state of emergency been happening?
The timeline is notoriously difficult. This is the exact moment in a conversation where a lot of language learners suddenly freeze up.
Oh, for sure.
They get completely tangled up in complex English grammar tenses, trying to explain something that, started in the past, continued through the weekend, got worse yesterday, and is still happening right now.
Present perfect, continuous, past perfect. I mean, it's a nightmare when you're just trying to get some antibiotics.
Truly.
But the material we're looking at bypasses all of that. It isolates the two absolute simplest ways to explain time without getting lost in the grammatical weeds. Let me play devil's advocate for a second, though.
Go for it.
If I'm the patient and I'm sitting there not knowing what is medically wrong with me, why is it so vital to the doctor for me to pinpoint exactly when it started? If my stomach is killing me, shouldn't the doctor just focus on examining my stomach right now?
I'm really glad you brought that up because it gets to the core of how medical professionals think. Think of the doctor as a detective working a crime scene. The physical pain is the evidence, but the timeline is their biggest contextual clue. They're constantly trying to determine, is this an acute issue that happened violently and suddenly, or is this a chronic issue that's been slowly building up over weeks?
Oh, I see. So a stomachache that started violently 1 hour ago after eating seafood tells a radically different medical story than, like, a dull stomachache you've had consistently for a month.
Precisely. The timeline allows them to rule out dozens of potential possibilities in a fraction of a second. A sudden onset might mean an obstruction or food poisoning. A month-long timeline might suggest an ulcer or a dietary intolerance.
Wow, okay.
So establishing time is critical, but we have to do it simply. The first tool we have is for explaining the duration, how long the symptom has been actively continuing. The phrase to lock in is, I have had it for.
I have had it for. It's a very set phrase that perfectly bridges the past and the present without requiring you to do mental gymnastics.
It handles the grammatical heavy lifting for you. You use this to explain the stretch of time. And the critical advice here is to keep the time measurement as simple as humanly possible. Resist the urge to be overly narrative.
Right, no life stories.
Exactly. Just use basic markers for 2 days, since Monday, since yesterday.
I have had this cough for 2 days. It's unglamorous, but it's flawless.
It really is.
So if the doctor asks, how long have you had the cough?
You can effectively just echo the structure of their own question back at them. You say, I have had it for 2 days.
Echoing is such a fantastic conversational survival tactic in a second language. You just grab the verb they use and hand it right back to them. Now, what about the second tool for time?
The second tool is for when you need to bypass duration entirely because there was a very specific, undeniable starting point. And for that, we just use the word started. You deploy this when the problem began at a clear moment.
Like the pain started yesterday morning.
Yes. So if the detective asks, when did it start?
You hand them the timestamp. It started yesterday afternoon. I think this is where the strategy becomes incredibly empowering. Using the word started is specifically useful when you have absolutely no idea what the medical reason is.
Exactly.
You aren't trying to explain the mechanics of the injury. You are just handing the detective the timestamp of the crime.
That's exactly it. You're saying, look, I was perfectly fine, and then at this exact moment in time, the problem materialized. It entirely shifts the burden of figuring out the why off of your shoulders and places it firmly onto the professional, which is exactly where it belongs. You provide the when, they figure out the why.
So we've successfully communicated the what and the when. The doctor has the location and the timeline. The natural next step to flesh out this diagnostic profile is understanding the intensity, the how bad.
Right. We have to move beyond just pointing to our knee and saying, ouch. Ouch doesn't give the doctor a sense of scale. We need to help them measure the severity.
This reminds me of trying to explain a complex stereo system to someone. First, you have the main volume knob, right? Like how loud is the music currently playing? Is it a mild hum, a moderate bass line, a strong beat, or a severe ear-shattering noise?
Like where this is going.
But then imagine the stereo also has a very sensitive motion sensor attached to it. Does the music only blast at full volume when you perform a specific action?
The volume knob and the motion sensor. I really like that framing. Let's look at how to communicate the volume knob first.
Okay.
The language tools here give us a very specific, recognizable scale of words. Mild, moderate, strong, and severe.
Okay.
But what's interesting is the heavy emphasis placed on understanding and utilizing one specific word.
Mild. I think a lot of people naturally shy away from the word mild. There's this psychological fear that if you tell a doctor your pain is only mild, they were going to dismiss you, tell you to take an aspirin, and send you home. We want our suffering validated, so there's a temptation to inflate the pain.
That temptation is huge, especially when you are stressed and relying on a limited vocabulary. But overinflating your pain is actually medically dangerous.
Because it sends the doctor down the wrong path again.
Exactly. In a clinical context, mild doesn't mean fake or unimportant. Mild simply means the pain is manageable. It is noticeable, it is uncomfortable, but it is not completely stopping you from functioning or breathing normally. You might say, the pain is mild, but it is uncomfortable.
So if the doctor asks, is the pain strong?
It is entirely okay and medically necessary to say, no, it is mild.
It's a vital word to keep in your pocket, because if you have a dull ache in your side that's been there for a week, it might only be mild, but the fact that it's persistent is the real issue.
Yes.
If you panic and tell the doctor the pain is severe, just to make sure they listen to you,
then the doctor, reacting to the word severe, might instantly order unnecessary, highly invasive or expensive diagnostic tests, like a CT scan or an emergency MRI, because severe implies a critical, life-threatening emergency. Using mild accurately protects you from unnecessary clinical escalation.
that is a massive realization. Accuracy is so much more important than dramatic effect. Okay, so that's the volume knob sorted. Now let's talk about that motion sensor, the triggers. The phrase we use to communicate this is, hurts when I.
This is how you explain the mechanical triggers of your pain. What specific physical action sets off that fire alarm in the room?
Like my back hurts when I move.
This is crucial diagnostic data. If a doctor asks, does it hurt all the time?
You can clarify, no, it hurts when I move, and you can swap the action out for whatever the trigger actually is. It hurts when I walk, it hurts when I eat, it hurts when I cough.
If we pull back and look at the bigger picture of what's happening here, specifying when it hurts is giving the doctor incredibly sophisticated diagnostic clues. But you are doing it using just a handful of simple foundational English words. Think about the stomach again. If your stomach only hurts when you eat, that points directly to the digestive system, maybe the gallbladder or an ulcer. But if your stomach hurts constantly, regardless of eating, that points to an entirely different set of systems. You are providing high-level, nuanced medical data with A2-level vocabulary.
It's elegant. It really underscores the core philosophy we started with. Simple and clear communication fundamentally beats trying to construct perfect, complex sentences every single time.
Always.
So at this point in our hypothetical visit, the doctor has listened to your symptoms, they've checked the timeline, they've gauged the intensity, and they've likely examined you. The investigative diagnosis phase is essentially wrapping up.
Which means the entire power dynamic of the conversation in that room is about to shift.
Yes. This is a moment of immense vulnerability for a patient. The doctor is typing notes, they're maybe printing out a prescription, and they're getting ready to move on to their next patient.
They're halfway up the door.
Exactly. It is incredibly easy to just passively nod, take the piece of paper, and walk out into the parking lot without actually understanding what you're supposed to do next. It is time for the patient to take control.
This final phase is entirely about establishing the next steps. Now, before we look at the specific phrasing, we do need to be clear. The phrases we are exploring in this deep dive are purely linguistic tools. We are obviously not providing medical advice.
Absolutely. We are strictly providing the language structures you need to successfully extract advice from your actual physician. So what does this all mean? How does the patient gain agency in this final moment?
Well, you need to stop the doctor from rushing out the door. You need to ask for explicit instructions. And the primary tool for that is the phrase, should I?
Should I? It is short, polite, and undeniably direct.
You use this to ask for actionable advice. It essentially forces the doctor to pause and give you concrete behavioral instructions.
The beauty is in the simplicity. Should I rest today?
Right. Imagine standing by the door. You ask, should I rest or can I go to work?
And the doctor has to give a clear directive. Rest today and drink plenty of water. That is such a common real-world dilemma. People get a prescription for antibiotics, but they have no idea if they are medically cleared to return to their normal daily life or if they are still contagious.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Using should I forces the medical professional to give you a definitive yes or no regarding your daily activities.
It removes all the guesswork. And the absolute final piece of the puzzle before you leave the clinic is knowing whether this relationship with the doctor needs to continue. Like, do you need to come back? The phrase to handle this is incredibly straightforward. Come back.
You are just asking about a follow-up appointment. Do I need to come back next week?
It's the perfect way to establish a safety net. Do I need to come back?
And the doctor might say, yes, please, schedule an appointment if the pain does not improve in 3 days. You don't need to try and formulate a formal, highly unnatural sentence like, is it necessary for me to schedule a subsequent consultation at the front desk?
Oh, wow. No. That's exhausting.
Just simply say, do I need to come back?
It is entirely conversational, it is polite, and most importantly, it efficiently extracts the exact logistical information you need to feel secure leaving the building.
Okay, we have successfully walked through the anatomy of an entire medical appointment. We've established the what's using hurts and have. We established the when using the timeline. We measured the how bad with the volume and the triggers. And we secured the what next by asking for advice.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. Now let's put this into a real-world simulation.
Let's bring all these disparate tools together into a cohesive strategy.
We aren't going to do a quiz. Instead, I want you, the listener, to actually visualize this. Picture yourself sitting on that crinkly paper of the exam table right now.
We all know that sound.
Right. The doctor walks in, introduces themselves, and asks why you are there. I am going to give you a vague, jumbled, stressful thought, the exact kind of chaotic thought you might be having in that moment. As I describe the feeling, I want you to try and mentally formulate the clean, simple sentence we've learned before we say it out loud.
We are translating the panic into precision.
All right, here is the simulation. First scenario. You are sitting there, your throat is absolutely killing you, and it's been feeling this way for the last 48 hours. You don't know the word for pharyngitis. What do you say?
You simply say, my throat hurts. I have had it for 2 days.
Notice the two clean parts. The fire alarm is the throat, and the duration is 2 days. Perfect. Okay, next scenario. You feel awful. Your head is pounding. You know it isn't a specific injury, but an overall feeling. And you remember clearly that it began happening yesterday morning.
Do you say, I have a headache? It started yesterday.
We utilized have because it's a systemic weather condition, and we used started because there was a clear, undeniable beginning. Okay, third scenario. Your lower back is in agony. but it actually feels totally fine when you are sitting still. It only shoots pain when you try to stand up or walk.
You say, my back hurts when I move.
You gave them the volume knob and the exact motion sensor trigger. Fourth scenario. The doctor has examined you, told you it's a mild strain, and is about to leave. You don't know if you should cancel your gym plans or go to work.
You ask, should I rest today?
And the final scenario. You are putting your coat on, but you are worried the pain might come back? You need to know the protocol.
You ask, do I need to come back?
If you can just firmly hold on to those specific, stripped-down sentence structures, you can confidently navigate almost any basic diagnostic appointment in the English-speaking world. Let's do one final recap of that core toolkit from today's deep dive.
Here is your foundational linguistic armor.
Lay it on us.
My throat hurts. I have a headache. I have had it for 2 days. It started yesterday. It hurts when I move. Should I rest? Do I need to come back?
It almost flows like a very practical, stress-reducing poem.
It fundamentally is about reducing your cognitive load so you can focus on getting better. And to ensure these structures actually stick in your mind when you need them, there is a practical study task to take away from this.
A little homework.
Exactly. Your homework is this. Choose 3 physical symptoms. They can be ones you've actually experienced recently, or you can entirely make them up. Practice translating those complex feelings into one clear, simple sentence using the structures we just reviewed.
Out loud.
Yes, say them out loud. Say them in your living room. Practice them in the shower. Train your mouth to get comfortable with the simplicity of the phrasing.
You want to practice it until it feels incredibly boring. Because boring is exactly what you want when you're at the doctor. You do not want to be linguistically exciting. You just want to be perfectly understood.
This entire methodology raises an interesting philosophical question, though, and it's something I want to leave you with to mull over. We have spent this entire deep dive looking at a deeply high-stakes environment, a medical clinic in a foreign language.
Yeah.
And we have unequivocally proven that the golden rule in that room is that simple, clear communication is infinitely better than attempting perfect, complex jargon.
Right. Accuracy over complexity.
So if that strategy is the absolute best approach when your physical health is literally on the line, how might applying this exact same philosophy completely transform the way we communicate in the other areas of our lives?
Oh, that's a great point.
What if we stopped trying to use inflated, complex jargon in our workplace meetings just to sound smart and instead strictly focused on being perfectly clear? What if we actively stripped away all the complicated, passive-aggressive phrasing in our personal relationships and just plainly, simply stated what hurts and what we need?
Wow. From the vulnerability of the doctor's office to the boardroom to your own living room, simple really is better. That is a massive paradigm shift.
It's just something to think about.